Hello everyone, we are back live with the National Conference of Privacy and Data Protection, Privacy Romania 2021. This is our third session in our fourth day, and I would like to welcome our guest, Mr. Roland Costea from Germany, Mr. Șerban Popa from Romania, Ms. Daniela Simionovic from Romania, and Mr. Naste Sebastian Dan from Belgium. The first presentation belongs to Mr. Roland Costea, as CISO of SAP Technical Expert and Cybersecurity, GDPR Trainer, and ASCPD Advisory Board Member. His theme is about privacy and security in public cloud environments. So let's hear the presentation.
Thanks, Diana. Hi all. As Diana mentioned, my name is Roland Costea. I'm the Chief Security Officer for SAP currently, and before SAP, I've worked for several technology companies like Microsoft, IBM, Genpact, Accenture, Cognizant, and practically developed security and privacy frameworks for top organizations in the world. In the last years, cloud technology, and especially public cloud technologies, were really important aspect when we created and we developed programs for top organizations. So I would like in this presentation to give you a short overview about how privacy and security can be enhanced with public cloud technology and public cloud environments. So first, let's start discussing what security and privacy have or not have in common. And let's say, in addition to the fact that information security and privacy are data protection regimens, there are different areas of overlap, like integrity and accuracy. Integrity is the concept in information security, accuracy in privacy, availability and access, accountability, that's practically a concept available for both, and confidentiality, when data is both personal information and non-public. Now, in terms of differences, there will be three aspects. First, privacy has a wider set of obligations and responsibilities than information security. And these are collection limitation, openness, relevancy, and also use limitation. What does it mean? It means that there are issues privacy addresses that information security does not. Now, the second disconnect is in relation to confidentiality, because personal information is not always non-public. And in a resource-constrained world, if the data is not considered confidential, it is not always valued. And the necessary measures to ensure the, let's say, authorized access and use will be usually overlooked. And third, and you can find it with red because I think it's probably one of the most important, while information security techniques can be privacy enabling technologies, and we try to call this PETs, which means that there are tools that enable privacy and are often necessary, but these PETs can also become, let's say, dangerous if applied incorrectly or in an invasive manner. And this is why you can have security without privacy, but you cannot have privacy without security. And then privacy and information security have what I like to call orthogonal information classification systems, because information privacy classifies personal information into two categories, which is private information and sensitive information, or sensitive private information. And information security protects it from a different angle, let's say from and touches degrees of confidentiality. And these are public, confidential, highly confidential, could be restricted or top secret. Again, depends on different organizations. Now, an interesting thing is that since 2018, GDPR term is searched more than ANSSI. And this trend continued in 2019, even 2020, and probably will continue this year. And I can tell you from the market that companies started to invest in privacy-oriented skills and have opened up a lot of positions relevant to privacy. Then let's come up a bit and let's say introduce the cloud to the picture. And I can say cloud can help reduce the cost, the complexity, and risk associated with security and compliance, including privacy. And what you can see here on the left side is that a survey demonstrated that while many organizations have initial concerns about moving to the cloud, a majority of cloud adopters achieve significant security benefits. And before embarking on cloud computing, around 60% cited that there are concerns around data security, which is normal, and it was practically a barrier to the adoption. And then 45% were concerned that the cloud would result in a lack of data control that will have some implications around privacy. Now, however, after moving to the cloud, a majority of cloud adopters achieve significant security benefits. And these are 94% experience really security benefits that they didn't previously have in their own premise environment. And around 62% said privacy protection increased as a result of moving to the field. Now, few individual customers can replicate what technology vendors and all the technology vendors can do in the cloud to protect the environment, and also the operational processes that they have in the cloud. And that's because there are not so many people. These skills are not easy to find, and that there is a way complex discussions around this in the market. But when companies use Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud Platform, they benefit from the scale and the experience running these highly secure and compliant online services around the globe. And then this, I would say, top providers' expertise will become the customer expertise in the end. In terms of attacks, I don't know if you can see this in the slide. I think anyway, there was some text on the arrows, but you will get the presentations. Attacker techniques, I would say, have been evolving rapidly in the last years. And you see what happened with SolarWinds and FireEye these days in December. There was also an increase in the maturity in attacker business models, where these new criminals and entrants are able quickly, and how effective become using sort of development kits. They even pay with different affiliated models. They can pay developers to practically develop the rootkits and then offer, let's say, a percentage of the profit rather than buying it from first. And this was seen in, I don't know, mass distribution malware that has been with us since decades. Now, this evolved into targeted malware at an individual or at an organization level, and that's something that happened with SolarWinds, with their supply chain attack. But can also be fileless malware, and that's something new. That's more like an attack code directly injected into the memory that will allow the attacker to bypass an antivirus or even some complex technologies like endpoint detection and response from time to time. And from there to start moving laterally after waiting a period or starting developing new things in there. And we also seen malware-less attacks. So what's that? It's practically a rise in the attack campaigns that involve no malware. These frequently target online software as a service, such as Office 365, for example, and involve different methods like social engineering, like credential theft, like native platform capabilities, for example, that can download documents, forged emails, and so on and so forth. But the business and the organizations need to transform, and that should happen rapidly in order to compete with digital native startups that and this change is driving the need for a new security transformation. And on the slide, you may see there are different IT transformation components to support the business digital transformation that will provide both challenges and also opportunities for information security and privacy. While the challenges are significant, there is also a massive opportunity to solve long-standing security problems with this next generation of computing. And the picture represents a classic enterprise security strategy with a network perimeter and the mobile device management component bolted on. And then to be competitive in the marketplace, businesses are seeking to transform using new powerful technologies like cloud, like mobile, like Internet of Things, for example. And these technologies are fueling major disruptions in once settled markets. And like I said before, if you think about digital native startup that leverage this technology to disrupt the competition or long-standing businesses, or if you think about an existing organization that is practically driving, let's say, a digital transformation to adopt new products for their customers or to adopt the way they engage with customers, to empower employees or to optimize their supply chain or operations. There are different areas. And this instantiates, I would say, in a couple of different ways, that each provide unique challenges and also the unique challenges in terms of information security and privacy. And let's take them one by one. You may see there on the slide, software as a service adoption. Software as a service provides rapid value without many of the challenges of traditional software deployment and maintenance. And while security doesn't have to update this software, they do need to be aware of their use, assess their trustworthiness, and also manage some security controls. When there is a demand for a first-class mobile experience, let's say, business users increasingly having a choice of what devices and apps they can use to get their job done. And this requires security to better meet their demands for a great user experience on a secure mobile device. Internet of Things, it's something new and it's something hot and it's proliferating. And the manageability and visibility of these devices vary greatly from PC and mobile devices because they have higher volume and limited functionality. They have also some limited resources to run traditional agents and frequently collect new forms of telemetry, let's say, with that comes with new privacy and also security implications. And in the end, regarding the IoT, cloud required to support this analytics and IoT management. And even if IT isn't adopting new cloud platforms and infrastructure for its own value proposition in security and privacy, many of the new IoT architectures require cloud services to collect and report on different IoT scenarios. And that being said, information security is required to evaluate the level of trust and the integration in controls for all these platforms. And all these changes bring new security challenges, like we said, but they also bring new opportunities for security to leverage the same massive storage and computing analytics capabilities to solve these new challenges, as well as the long-standing classic security challenges. Now, I have chosen to represent this as a new perimeter than perimeter-less because the core concepts of a security perimeter still apply well to identity control, like the separation of threats from resources using a consistent set of controls. Let me just go to the next slide. Cybersecurity resilience requires achieving three complementary objectives, I would say. And because cloud services split these operational responsibilities of workloads between the cloud provider and the customer, it is critical to understand the shared responsibility model and what security tasks will be handled by the cloud provider and which ones will be handled by the organization or the customer. Now, the workload responsibilities vary depending on whether the workload is hosted as a software as a service, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service, or in the end is the old environment in the on-premise data center. So if we think about software as a service, then the cloud provider is responsible for all the layers, including the application itself, customer being in the end responsible for the data that goes into the application. Now, if we go to the platform as a service, the cloud provider is responsible for the operating system, for the databases, for the middleware layer that allows the applications to work together, and the customer and comes with the application on top being responsible for that layer. And in the last one, the infrastructure as a service, practically the cloud provider is responsible only for the infrastructure layer, like the computing power and the storage and the physical data center, definitely, and the customer coming with everything that goes on top. Now, building a resilient security posture in the cloud requires three approaches, and I will start with the bottom one. It's trust but verify. So for responsibilities performed by the cloud provider, you should always take a trust or but verify approach and evaluate the cloud providers to ensure that they are really performing what they are saying and what their security responsibilities is. Yeah, I can assure you that working with Microsoft, Amazon, or Google, all these are handled properly, but there are plenty of other cloud providers out there, maybe some of them local, and you should always adopt this kind of attitude with trust but verify. Then in terms of modernization of the infrastructure security, for workloads that require managing the operating system and the infrastructure components, organizations should take advantage of the cloud and the features it provides in order to modernize and to have more insights at different levels. And in the end, the modern perimeter, there are, for data across all the workloads, organizations should establish, let's say, a modern perimeter which is consistent, which is centrally managed, and which analyzes the identity controls to protect everything around data, devices, and accounts. Now, going further. One sec. Okay. The cloud has many significant advantages for solving these information security problems that were quite long right now and aged. And we'll compare a traditional approach, security approach, to a cloud-enabled approach in this slide. And when we look at the technology stack, there is a spectrum of assets ranging from commodity assets, which are low intrinsic value for an organization, like storage or computing, and all the way up to assets with unique value to the organization, like data, like user accounts, or devices and applications. Now, security is a difficult occupation because we never have enough resources to secure all the assets. This results in a lot of unmet responsibilities from security projects remaining in the backlog for defenders. And this is called accepted risk in the end. But attackers can reach their objectives using any effective technique, ranging from exploiting some unpatched firmware or operating system to up to configuration weaknesses or human error. The first advantage of the cloud is that it allows you to transfer the day-to-day responsibility for many layers of the stack to the cloud provider. You have to trust the cloud provider and verify trustworthiness, like we discussed. But once you find a trustworthy one, it's to your benefit to transfer as much security, including operational security responsibility, from your staff to them. And this allows you to focus your team on other parts of security, like the often delayed information protection projects that many organizations have today. And in terms of the constant connectivity and resource tracking improvements of these cloud technologies, this allows security to do more with less resources. And some examples can be documents that can phone home for better protection. There is a feature, for example, in Microsoft called Azure Information Protection that takes advantage of the high connectivity of these cloud services to protect documents of persisting encryption wherever they go. So no matter the file will go from your organization to Brazil or to Africa, only the people who will have access to them and who will actually need to access it will be able to access it, nobody else. So it doesn't matter that it's not, I don't know, whatever data loss prevention on the perimeter, that somehow the file was able to reach those countries, but only the respective users, by connecting to the cloud service, will be able to open it. There are increased coverage for these best practices and protections, and because resources on a software-defined data center like Azure are tracked closely and consistently. And there are technologies like, I don't know, to give some example around Amazon or Azure Security Center or AWS Security Hub, that can provide this complete coverage for assets in the tenant, avoiding the problem of lost or mystery servers that somehow pumped up and they were enabled in a physical data center. And definitely there could be discussions around threat detection and how you can use cloud security capabilities and how you can scale in analyzing the data with cloud power way differently than you do in the on-prem environment. Good. Now, on this slide, I've just pasted up some compliance technology certifications, let's put it like that, and standards. Both Azure and AWS have. With Google Cloud, the list is quite similar. What I'm trying to say is that if you adopt a model like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, you can make use of these providers' certifications in order to be yourself certified. So if the customer, if Azure and AWS is ISO 27001 on a specific layer, you can use that, or SOC 2 at a specific layer, you can use that certification in order to help you in your compliance project. You will not be 100% definitely certified, because there are a lot of processes in how you use those services and those features, but it will diminish the level of work you need to do in order to certify from scratch. As you may know, for just an example, ISO 27001, it's quite a lot, a standard that involves also in the physical security layer. And this will be a topic that you will be able to eliminate if you choose and going for a cloud provider. In terms of data privacy, there are limitations that could be performed at the location level. So you can enroll in a subscription that will hold the data only in Germany, or only in the Nordics, or only in UK, or only in Americas, as per your privacy needs. And that will be no issue there. Then, in terms of how information protection evolved, let's say during years, we started always with the middle, with the protect part. So we had encryption, we had access controls, we had policy informants, we had best practices around internal processes and how to handle that. During time, there are two other components that were added to these capabilities. And the first and most important one is the classification and labeling part. What I'm trying to protect, what's the level of confidentiality about that? And nobody knows it. It's only you as an internal component that you can define what means confidential for you, what means highly confidential. And it can this can go even on a sub-label level, meaning confidential can be something for an HR department, but can mean something for the IT department or the financial department, and so on and so forth. And the last part, the monitor and respond, is somehow linked with the example I gave of a file that traveled to a different location. And it's about document tracking and revocation. So there is technology nowadays that will be able to tell you where a specific file went on a map, and you can see which people opened it and were able to open it based on the rights that were performed, or which people tried to open it, but the open was not, I mean, the action was not successful. And this will help you in practically monitor the leakages and to practically say, okay, that there was some successful attempt on a data leakage or that was tried but never succeeded. And yeah, well, this slide should have been a graphic saying that practically you need in 2021 to have all these components all together. It's not enough only to protect. It's not enough only to classify, and it's a need to have all this together. And that's where top enterprises and big companies are driving their strategies of, and how they work and how they manage security and privacy projects to help them in achieving that maturity result. In the end, I would say security and privacy must meet what I like to call dual challenges. And that's innovation, meaning adapt to new threats and cybersecurity capabilities, and hygiene or best practices, or how to prioritize, implement, and sustain a well-established framework inside the organization. And this will only happen now and in the future with the power of cloud technology. The reason of the slide is that in the end, it doesn't really matter how much you invest in technology, because still the user is the weakest link. but you need to be able to diminish the level, let's say, of ungranted disgranted access that the specific user may have, and to be able to control their activities in a way that doesn't bother their day-by-day operations. That's all from me. Marius, if we have some questions, I think there are 5 minutes left.
Thank you so much, Roland, for your presentation and for all the information you shared with us. Well, Marius, do we have any questions or not really, right?
I would like to ask Roland a question, if I might.
Sure.
If I may.
Sure.
Roland, you mentioned this digital native. How you said it? How you put it? Startup. Yes.
Startups.
Okay. Did you use this digital native in the same meaning as the concept of digital native as an individual digital immigrant? You know the concept?
No.
Because it's very similar.
No.
It's very similar, and in simple words, it talks about the digital native is a person born after 1984, which is very familiar with all the gadgets, all the internet, all you have said by now. I, for example, am a digital immigrant. I may say that's a very practical one in terms of technology. But what you said, it looks very familiar with that concept of individual digital native, because it's, I don't know, it's very interesting because a startup could be a digital native, and like in the concept of privacy by design.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, the concept is the same. It's applied, let's say, with some different flavors. What I was trying to say, and I will give you a company-to-company comparison. So I'm the Chief Security Officer at SAP. So think of, SAP. SAP was building business enterprise software since whatever, so many years now. And there were and still are a lot of on-premise dedicated business softwares that our companies are running right now. And even if we try to move them to the cloud, there are a lot of challenges because the software was built for on-prem environments. And I'm give you the comparison with Salesforce.com, right? Which is a company that is digital native because it was built directly from the cloud, and it was only offering this model. There was no on-prem, no perpetual licenses, nothing like that in the end. Then the model was different. Right now, it's not difficult, but there are more challenges for SAP to transform immediately to the same model than it is for them. Again, it's more or less the same concept, but applied on with different flavors in different directions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Looks like there is another question, Roland, for you. Marius just wrote it for us in the chat. Yeah. Privacy is about regulatory compliance, not just information security. Do you have an idea about how non-European cloud service providers address compliance challenges post screens?
Mm-hmm. Well, if by non-European you refer to American companies, right? And if you refer to these big players, because Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they are all American companies in the end. And I mentioned in the presentation, there is a concept of region boundary. So no matter if the company is an American company, they have data centers all around the world. And where they don't have a data center, they have a premium partner that is able to deliver a data center for them in that specific location. And what that means is when you practically get a service from them or use some features, you are able to say that you want the data to stay in a specific data center. And you have a commitment and a contract that is practically keeping the data in that data center. So that's how you set up the privacy boundaries for data that you want to stay in Germany, for example. And there are a lot of cases with Germany that, because the legislation here for privacy and security is a bit more strict than in the other countries in Europe. And it's the same with other regions. When you speak regarding, I mean, when there are other smaller providers, then it's a matter of, again, of the contract, and it's also this trust and verify concept, I would say, that you need to have a contract in place that will catch all these components and how this data goes on. But if you're speaking about the big ones, then this is easily happening with the region boundary.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you.